and to top it all, after all that, they go and leave you. But I suppose that's the way it should be. But imagine knowing that your child would never grow up to have that kind of freedom, and in fact would need help 24/7 for the rest of their life. Paul and Carol from Stockton-on-Tees have worked tirelessly bringing up their 2 children. One has Down syndrome, but both also suffer from forms of autism. As you can imagine, juggling the pressures of work and home life would never be easy, but eventually it all got too much.
We had got ourselves into this big dark hole, and depression was kicking in with me.
We tried our best, but we can't go on like this.
The family life they'd planned took a different turn with the birth of their first son, Matthew, who was diagnosed with Down syndrome.
It was numbing at first.
Just see 40-foot letters and thinking, oh my God, no, what's going to happen? Why me? We lost a lot of friends because of having Matthew. A lot of our friends couldn't accept him and would cross the road when the seen us come in.
It was understandably a very difficult time, but they managed to pick themselves up. Paul stayed home and looked after Matthew, while Carol went out to work.
I could earn more than Paul if I went back to work. So then Paul became house husband and he took the role on. He was primary carer for Matthew, he was house husband, he stayed at home, he'd done the cooking, the cleaning, everything.
3 years later they had their second child, Ryan. With only one wage coming in and an extra mouth to feed, money was tight. The family ploughed on and for years just about made ends meet with the money Paul received for being Matthew's carer, and the top-up they got through a benefit scheme to help parents get back to work.
But, you know, we just cut down, cut back. Things I couldn't do, things I can't do.
You try and give them everything that they want or need. And obviously you don't always have the money to do that.
And if the family didn't have enough to deal with, when Ryan was about 9, things got even tougher.
Ryan completely became a different character overnight. It's like he'd gone to bed this sweet child and woke up the following morning this obnoxious, don't know, just wasn't him.
At the time, it just, we didn't realise.
Ryan was then basically completed an assessment, said he's on the autistic spectrum. To be told you have another child with an additional need is devastating.
In many ways, Ryan was just like any other 9-year-old boy, but the autism affected his behaviour, which meant outbursts and tantrums were a regular thing.
You now know that Ryan is going to need extra support and he is going to need you to be there. So there was a pressure of that. There was a pressure of I needed to be at home, but I was a breadwinner, so I needed to be at work as well. And all that takes its toll over time.
But the family was about to be dealt another blow. Now about this time, due to some changes in the benefit system, some of the money that was being used to top up Carol's income, money that the family had come to rely upon, stopped. One of the answers was for Carol to work more hours, but all of her spare time was being taken up caring for her children and their growing needs. Sooner or later, something had to give.
It's already on. Mummy, do it. Mummy, do it.
Matthew's complexities mean he's a 24-hour job.
There you go.
He can't be left unsupervised. You need to know what he's doing and what he's up to every minute of the day. Having to then go and do an 8-hour shift at work, on top of that when you've been up since 3:30, 4:30, that was having an impact as well on me. There's been times when we've gone, oh my God, what are we doing? We can't go on like this.
For Carol, it was inevitable that things had to change.
My doctor suggested that I either concentrate on work or I concentrate on my home life, but I can't do both. And that's the time when it was decided for mental health reasons that work had to give up work.
We tried to work, but it got crippling. First on one side you got me, I was exhausted, because Matthew wasn't sleeping at the time, and so basically I was getting a couple hours sleep, and I just couldn't cope after about a month and a half.
With every spare penny spent trying to make the boys' lives as comfortable as possible, giving up work was a hard decision, as they knew that without Carol's income, they'd now struggle to make ends meet.
We tried our best, but within about 6 weeks, a month to 6 weeks, we were something like 500 quid. It just didn't rent. It was like, whoa, hang on.
You haven't got it coming in. You've still got bills to pay. You've still got to keep a roof over the children's head. And you're struggling from day to day. As well as that puts an emotional pressure on you. And I wasn't coping emotionally.
We always put our children first, that's it. And that's all we did, we put our children first. And their needs were more greater than us going out to work.
Carol and Paul had been through some really tough years, and they'd spent so much of their time and energy looking after the boys, they'd forgotten that they needed looking after too. It's times like that you could really do with some help.
Initially, I heard about the George Hardwick Foundation from a one-off visit to the doctors, who said maybe, go along and talk to somebody who understands.
I think a lot of people like Carol come to us for support in difficult times. We can refer them into social services, we can help them get social care assessments, which then open up the opportunities for respite, for the right care to be put in place to help support the person that they care for.
Carol and Paul had to get back from the brink, both emotionally and financially, so they could continue to provide a life for their boys. But could the foundation help in what was now becoming a desperate situation?
It was great, just having somewhere to go that understood.
For now, though, we're going to leave those fiddling the benefit system and concentrate on people in genuine need of some help. After a few tough years caring for their son Matthew, who has Down syndrome and autism, Paul and Carol's life hit breaking point when their second son Ryan was also diagnosed with autism.
I wasn't coping emotionally, so I went through various bouts of depression.
Carol was forced to give up her job and help her husband Paul, who was Matthew's full-time carer. But with neither of them working, 2 kids to feed and rent to pay, the debts quickly spiralled out of control.
We kind of got ourselves into a bit of a dark spot, owing catalogues and loans, and there wasn't enough money coming in to cover them. We didn't know where to turn, who to turn to.
Financially, they just wanted more money than we were earning. We just couldn't afford it.
Carol and Paul were facing some uncertain times ahead, and like all of us, at one point or another, they needed a helping hand. Carol was put in touch with the George Hardwick Foundation, a charity that offers help to those caring for loved ones.
I think a lot of people like Carol come to us for support in difficult times. In the past, many people would get into major financial difficulty. They'd run up debts that they couldn't pay, and they'd come to us when they're in crisis.
Paul and Carol desperately needed someone to look at whether they were entitled to any additional benefits. Having a little more income would completely transform the quality of life for the whole family. And after a few weeks of making phone calls and form filling, there was finally something to smile about.
Our benefits advice workers helped her claim carer's allowance, which they were getting for Matthew, and they didn't realise that they could actually, because one was caring for Matthew full-time, the other could actually claim it for Ryan as well.
It meant the pressure was off and we were allowed to live a little.
It makes a big difference, even if it's, only a small amount every week or every month. That can actually be of huge benefit to certain people.
But for Carol, the support she needed wasn't just financial. The years of spending all her spare time with the boys with no help from anyone outside of the family had slowly but surely run her into the ground.
You disappear as a person and your home life takes over and it absorbs you to the point where there isn't anything else. That's it.
If you're looking after a child, you're doing it 24/7. Your world revolves around that. You don't have time for a social life necessarily, and I think all carers are like that.
Carol was put in touch with a support group where carers get together over a cuppa and talk through the stresses and strains of bringing up kids that need a lot of help.
It took me a good few months before I did pluck up the courage to go. And when I did go, they were brilliant. They sat, they listened to me bubble. It was great, just having somewhere to go that understood. I'd found an outlet. I wasn't getting depressed. I was coping better at home, which in turn meant the pressure was taken a little bit more off Paul.
But it didn't stop there. The foundation has all sorts of facilities that Carol and the boys can use, from a relaxation centre with massage rooms to an in-house cinema for afternoons out, something which for years had seemed almost impossible.
Walking the kids to the local park, you know, that's not an option for us. Being put in touch with other families as well, that had a great impact on our lives.
We've been able to help Carol, Paul, Ryan and Matthew to go on family days out, to enjoy some quality time together as a family, and particularly for couples, for Carol and Paul, that's really important that they're able to do that.
We were doing things as a family. I'm not saying it was easy. It still had its challenges, it still had its struggles, but we were out there and we were doing it. And previous to that, we hadn't been.
The George Hardwick Foundation had worked wonders for Carol, Paul and the boys, but just at the point when they were starting to get a grip on things, they were thrown another curveball. Matthew will turn 19 in a few months' time, which means the benefits he currently receives will soon stop. Now, this money is vital for the family's financial survival, so it's understandably a major concern. Luckily for Carol, the Foundation's benefit advisors on hand to help the family plan ahead.
Hi, Jeff.
The concerns for Carol at this point in time were that her son Matthew, who's turning 19 in February, and there's all sorts of changes coming through at that stage in his life. So basically, with him approaching 19, the options are to make a choice. Does he claim benefits in his own right, or do we continue in terms of the child benefit and child tax credit sides of things, which you currently get for him?
Making the right decision will be crucial if the family's going to continue to keep their heads above water. But Carol's confident she's now in safe hands.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. We're not hitting crisis points now. If we know something's coming up, like a major change that's about to happen, we'll make an appointment and we'll get some more benefits advice.
Organisations such as the George Hardwick Foundation provide peace of mind, they provide a safety blanket for carers when they need it. You know, they don't need it every day, but when they do need the support, there's somebody here.
Carol's life's been changed beyond recognition, and knowing just how much she's been helped, she's wanted to give something back. She now heads up a support group called Stockton United for Change.
Yeah, the reason I'm here today is my son's got autism. And,
because we are parents, we know what the parents are going through. We've been there, we've done it, we've worn the t-shirt. If we can stop one family from hitting crisis point, then to me, that's what it's about.
What's that?
Gaggy.
Donkey.
Carol, Paul and the boys owe a lot to the Foundation, and thanks to them they can now enjoy life as a family once again.
I think without the help and support, we would really be back where we were all those years ago. Now, we can look to the future, which is something we've never ever thought of.
She won't stop, and that she will really look to get the support that she needs. Not for her necessarily, for her family.
Who's that?
It's not just about getting benefits advice or counselling or going and having a massage and a therapy and a relaxation. It's about the practicalities to get you through life and on the right course.
With all the time and energy that Carol and Paul have put into their family, it's great to see a smile back on their faces. And hopefully, with all the help and support they're getting, from here on in, it's onwards and upwards.